There is something deeply wrong happening in American cities, and it's not just crime or homelessness or taxes. It's the fact that failure is no longer disqualifying. In fact, failure now seems to be a credential. Cities burn, budget explodes, police retreat, families flee, and the people responsible don't disappear. They advance. They move up from city councils to mayoral races, from school boards to governorships, from fringe ideology to institutional power. And every time this happens, we are told it's progress. But here's the question no one in the media is asking. What happens when a city already collapsing decides to double down on the very ideology that broke it? Tonight, we are talking about Los Angeles, where a self-described socialist member of the city council has launched a mayoral challenge against Karen Bass. She is backed by the Democratic Socialists of America, the same movement pushing to disarm police, close jails, decriminalize drugs, and promise everything for free. This matters now because Los Angeles isn't theoretical. It's a real city with real fires, real crime, real homelessness, and real families paying the price. The press treats this like a curiosity. Institutions refuse to connect cause and effect. Voters are told to accept decline as compassion. That's the work of accountability desk. Naming what's being done, tracing who benefits, and refusing to pretend this is normal. So here's the question we are answering tonight. Why do failing cities keep rewarding radical ideology? And who pays the price when they do? Let's start with the lie that props all of this up. The lie is that these candidates are rising because they have new ideas. They are not. They are rising because the system has made accountability optional. When fires rage in Los Angeles and rebuilding stalls for months, when homelessness spreads under policies that decriminalize compassion, when crime spikes but enforcement retreats, the response isn't reform. The response is ideological escalation.
Socialist member of the Los Angeles City Council is now launching a bid for mayor. She's challenging Karen Bass. The California Post editorial board writing this, LA, do not go Mamdani on us. And they argue Nathia Rahman's sudden entry into the race is a warning sign that LA is lurching dangerously to the left. She's backed by the Democratic Socialists of America, whose program for Los Angeles includes disarming police, closing jails, and decriminalizing drugs, among other items.
Did you notice something there? No shame, no hesitation. No, maybe we went too far. Just a smooth transition from policy failure to higher office that tells you everything about the incentive structure. In these cities, the more radical the idea, the more insulated you are from consequences. This isn't an accident. What you are watching is institutional capture. City councils, school boards, local media, non-profit, academia, they all reinforce the same narrative. Enforcement is cruelty. Borders are violence. Accountability is oppression, and economics is optional. So when a mayor falls, this system doesn't self-correct. It looks for someone even more committed to the ideology, not less. And Los Angeles isn't alone. This exact pattern is playing out across the country, including places that used to be competitive, moderate, even red. In the next segment, we're going to show how this ideology spreads city by city and why voters keep getting boxed into false choices, because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Every time it happens, the media pretends it's a mystery. Why are these far left candidates winning? Where did the moderator go? Here's the uncomfortable truth they won't say out loud. The moderate Democrat didn't lose. The moderate Democrat was replaced, not by voters, by donors, institutions, and ideological enforcers. In the cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, there are no longer a meaningful Democratic primary. There is a loyalty test.
What they're trying to do is little by little, they're coming in to infiltrate from the city council to the school boards, and they want to become part of the norm. And that's what's happening in California.
You know, I'm curious, Paul, as Donna talks about that, what's the issue that prevents common sense Democrats from entering in? Why is it, what is it that is somehow sort of magnetizing in these socialist Dems. Is it true that every Democrat is now a socialist Democrat and we should perceive them as such? Or is there something wrong with politics so toxic that good common sense people just aren't being attracted to it?
I think the former. I actually don't think there really is much of a Democratic Party left. At this point, it feels to me like the difference between jumping off the 19th floor or the 20th floor. All right, the difference between Karen Bass or who's opposing her here. We saw it here in New York. Look at the races that just occurred in New Jersey, and Virginia.
That comparison, jumping off 19th floor versus the 20th, that's not hyperbole. That's the lived reality of voters trapped inside one-party cities. You don't get a debate about whether the system works. You get a debate about how fast it should be dismantled. And if you refuse to play along, you are labeled as traitor or worse, conservative adjacent. This is how ideology hardens into orthodoxy. The money follows the activist. The activists control the primaries. The media sanitizes language. Democratic socialists become progressive. Abolish ICE become reform. Disarm police become community safety. Same policies, new packaging. And voters are told this is the only moral option left. But this doesn't stay contained in deep blue cities. It matters their sizes. And the next example proves that this ideology doesn't stop at city limits. It moves into states that used to be competitive. New Jersey is next. When radicals run out of success stories, they stop promising results. They start promising revenge. Revenge against police, revenge against borders, revenge against taxpayers, and they sell it as justice.
All right, Harris, we're going to pop over from the West Coast to your home state, New Jersey, where far-left candidate Ana Lilia Mejia is on the verge of winning a Democratic congressional primary. Here she is, however, calling to abolish ICE.
I say abolish ICE now! You can't reform that! It's not fixable! Get it out! Kick it over! It is done! Forget it! Abolish ICE!
Now, there was a time when Jersey was purple. There was a time when parts of it were straight up red. So are we seeing what Paul's talking about, that
this chant isn't policy, it's a theater. And theater is all you have left when your ideas collapse under scrutiny. No plan for border security, no plan for crime, no plan for economic growth. Just slogan, loud enough to drown out reality. And here's where this gets dangerous. These policies don't fall in theory, they fall in real time, with real casualties. Fires in California, homeless deaths in freezing weather, utility costs exploding, housing frozen by regulation. These aren't acts of God, these are policy outcomes. And yet, the answer is always the same. More government, less enforcement, higher taxes, lower expectation. Which brings us to the most seductive lie of all. The one that keeps voter trapped even as their cities decay. The promise of free. In the next segment, we are going to break down why free everything works politically, even when it destroys economically. Every failing ideology eventually distills itself in one word: free. Free college, free utility, free groceries, free buses, free jobs, free forgiveness. When competence disappears, free becomes the substitute for leadership. And in cities already suffocating under taxes and regulation, this message lands. Not because it's smart, but because it's desperate.
Live in the only place in the world where they don't have any problems, especially not with the weather. No fires, nothing. That would make them popular. But where we have real life problems, I don't see how you apply Mom Donnie style policies to real life.
which is such a perfect tee up and a great point. So Mejia's policies, which we put up, she is offering it all for free. So we have as the primary concern for all voters, both sides, economics. But what we're hearing is a promise of everything being free. Free college, debt forgiveness, free utilities, free buses, free jobs, free groceries. But there's not a smart economic theory behind it to certainly either A, cut down costs, or B, account for the high overheads, thanks to the Democrats' prior decision. So that's something that everyone is inheriting, yet somehow that sounds attractive. Why, Nicole, is that lack of intellectual argument somehow working with voters?
It's unbelievable to me because we all know that nothing in this world is free, and someone is paying for that. And that is why everyone is flocking to my lovely state of Florida.
Listen carefully to what's missing there. No numbers, no trade-off, no consequences. Because once you say who pays, this spell breaks. Free only works if you never finish the sentence. This is how dependency politics works. You create chaos through policy. You promise relief without responsibility. You blame anyone who asks questions. And then you shame working families for resisting the bill. The people who leave, they're labeled selfish. The people who stay and pay, they're expected to stay quiet. But there is a reason people are voting with their feet. And it's not because they hate compassion. It's because they've seen an alternative that actually works. While cities like Los Angeles and New York experiment on their residents, there is a quiet migration happening. Families, small business owners, retirees, they're leaving high tax, high control state and heading to places that still believe math matters.
State of Florida and Miami, because you know what? They know how to do things. They know how economics works. And guess what? We don't even have a state income tax in Florida, and we're in a much better situation than these places in New York, a triple tax, and they are suffering. So again, people that think, oh, you know what, everything is free. Yeah, it's free unless you're the one paying the taxes and you're the one having to shell out all of your money. And those are the people that are leaving. And so people from California, specifically it could be LA next, will be flocking down to places like Texas and like Florida. But again, going back to this whole, the Democratic Socialist America, there was one statement that they said, which in light of the current Olympics going on, which I thought was absolutely flabbergasting. They oppose the Olympics, saying that the event would, quote, place our already vulnerable communities at a higher risk of death, displacement, deportation, and detention. How bizarre is that? They don't even believe in the Olympics. That's gotta go.
Florida didn't get lucky. Texas didn't stumble into success. They made choices, lower taxes, enforcement of law, economic realism, and suddenly, the same people voting for socialism are fleeing from it. This is quite indictment no one wants to confront. If these policies worked, people wouldn't be leaving. If free everything created prosperity, capital wouldn't run for the exist. If this ideology produced safety, families wouldn't feel trapped. But instead of asking why people flee, the left asks how to stop them from leaving. And that brings us to the final truth, the one that ties Los Angeles, New Jersey, New York, and every collapsing blue city together. This isn't mismanagement, it's intentional. And once you understand that, everything snaps into focus. At some point, we have to stop pretending this is incompetence. But you are watching in Los Angeles and New York and New Jersey is not a series of mistakes, it's a strategy. Disorder creates dependence. Dependence creates power, and power once centralized is very hard to take back. Read those policies carefully. They don't describe a functional city. They describe a population that can't resist. No enforcement, no border, no consequence, just administrator managing decline while calling it justice. This is why failure is rewarded. If the goal were prosperity, these people would be fired. If the goal were safety, this idea would be rejected. But if the goal is control, then collapse isn't a bug, it's a feature. The worse things get, the more power the system demands. The more power it demands, the fewer choices voters are given. Until eventually, the only choice left is which version of socialism you prefer. So, when a city council member runs for mayor of Los Angeles, don't treat it like a curiosity. Treat it like a warning. This is what happens when accountability disappears. This is what happens when media protects narrative instead of people. This is what happens when ideology matters more than outcome. Conservatives have been right about this for years. Strong borders matter. Law enforcement matters. Economies matters. Reality matters. And the cities collapsing under left-wing rule are proof, not talking points. The choice isn't compassion versus cruelty. The choice is order versus chaos. And now, the chaos is running for higher office. That's not the progress. That's a system eating itself.